Hello everyone, welcome again to my channel Excel with Duty. In today's video, we're going to see another important aspect in Excel, that is the cell references. Okay, now cell references, if you see, so each cell in the Excel, it is made by the intersection of the column and the row. Okay, if you see, if I put the cursor on any cell, you'll see B4. Now B is the column here and the 4 is the row here. Okay, and so this cell is made of the column and the row B4. Okay, if I keep my cursor here, it is D9. So D is the column and 9 is the row. Okay, so this cell is made of column D and cell 9. So you see, anywhere if we move in the Excel, it is made out of referencing which column we are referencing, which row we are referencing. And this is what we cover in the references. Okay, so references basically means wherever we move, whichever formula or function we use, which cell, it is the basically address that we are giving to that cell that we are referencing. Okay, so basically we have three types of references that we usually do in our Excel. Okay, first one is the relative references. Okay, these are basically references which, as the name suggests, are relative to the cell. Okay, so for example, if you've typed any formula in A1 and you move to A2, so initially the formula is referencing to A1, but when you moved to A2, this formula automatically will start referencing to A2. Now, if you had moved to B2, the formula would have automatically start referencing the cell B2. So wherever you move, the formula will automatically move those number of steps and it will start referencing the current place wherever the cursor or you start putting the formula. So this is relative. Now, when we say absolute, absolute means fixed. Okay, so when you say absolute reference, so you mean to say that you are giving a fixed address to the cell. Okay, so whenever you write a formula or you write a function and you give an absolute reference, then you mean to say that you are fixing that particular address. Now wherever you copy that formula or wherever you move in that cell, the referencing will only be happening to that you have made it as an absolute reference. For example, if this cell A1, I have done absolute reference and I copy it to cell A2. Even if I copy it to cell A2, it will keep on, the formula will keep on referencing to cell A1 only. Okay. And pictorially, how do you see the referencing? So basically, these dollar sign tell you which part of the cell, whether the column or the row is fixed. So if it is in front of A, you say the column is fixed. If it is in front of 1, that is the numeric, you say the rows are fixed. Okay. Now we have the fixed mixed references. Mixed references, as the name suggests, it's the mixed view, whether you are fixing the column or you are fixing one. If you see the dollar is in front of A, that means to say that you have fixed the column, but you have not fixed the row. Okay. So it will not, the formula will not be copied across the column, but it will be copied across the row. Now, if you're writing like $1, that means you're fixing the row, you're not fixing the column. So if you move the formula, it will not move across the row, but it will move across the column. So this is how the referencing works. Let us move to the data and see how practically we do it. So here you see, we again have the monthly sales data of the employees selling all the cell phones. Okay. Now, simply in this particular data set, we want to see what is the revenue of each employer. So how do we get the revenue? We simply multiply the price with the quantity. I'll multiply the price with the quantity, say enter. Now, if you see, if I copy this and I paste down, that it has automatically taken the values of price and quantity for employer away. Okay. Now, if I copy this And again, if I move down, you'll see again the revenue formula has taken the values of price and quantity of the next employee, that is Jack. Now, how is it moving? It is moving because it is following the relative reference method. Okay, that is, wherever you are dragging this formula, it is taking the relative positions of the cells which have been addressed initially. Okay, so what I mean to say, initially, if you see the cell which we addressed were E7 and F7, but when we go down, so if you just want to see the formulas, you can just say control tilt is the function. Now you can see the formulas like this way. Now if you move down, you see it has taken the referencing wherein it is still, but it is moved down the rows, because you see we have just moved down the rows, we have not changed the column. So all the columns are showing as E, but the rows, well, the number of the rows, it is changing as you move down. Okay, so again, you can use control tilt. I'm using it in the Mac just to go back to the values. So this is how you use the relative references. Now let's move to the second scenario, that is the absolute references. Now this time in the same data, we want the percent of the revenue for each employee. Okay, and how do we do it? Say we'll take the total revenue and we'll divide it with the total here. Okay, so this is what we got, the percent of revenue that Jack has contributed in the sales. Now if I copy this and I move it down, you see we get error. Okay, now if I show you the formula here, so as you move down, you see in the very first cell, it is taking the reference of the revenue and the total. Now as we move down, since we are still using the relative reference, it moves the sum value also down. Okay, which basically, since there is no value there, we are getting the error. I'll go back to the formula. Okay, so what we need to do here is basically we need to make this total as absolute, because we don't want our denominator to keep on moving every time. So how we can do it? We just put our cursor here and we just say function F4. Now, just as a trick, if I show you, when you once when you press function F4, it will make the cell referencing as absolute. Okay, but when you press it again, it will make the row as fixed. When you press once more, it will make the column as fixed. When you press once again, it will again get back to the normal relative reference. Okay, so you have whichever form of referencing you want to achieve, you need to press function F4 again and again. For the very first time, when you press F4, it will lock both the column and the row, so, which is what we want in this particular scenario. I'll say enter, and now if I move down, you see we've got the result that we wanted. And now if you see the formula, it is taking exactly the revenue divided by the total. So this is the absolute referencing and how it works. Okay, now let's move on to the final mixed references. Now we have a data sheet here wherein it is saying the sales for different zones here and month-wise sale of the zone. Okay, and we have the totals for all the different months here. So what we want here basically is we want to find the person sales for each of the month. So how we can do it? So let me just start. typing with the first. So I'll take the sales in January for zone 1 and I'll divide by the total here. Okay. So when I press enter, I'll see I've got a contribution for zone 1 for month of Jan. If I if I drag it in all the column, so if you see, it's not working exactly as I want. Okay. See, it's it's taking the sales value, but the total it is moving as per the relative reference. Okay, so what we notice here, the total is something which we don't want to move. So how we can do it? So let's uh, so formula we have given C35, that is the sales here. Now sales is something which we want as a relative reference, because when we copy the formula on each cell up and down, we want the sales to be taken from both cells in the column. Okay, but if you talk about the total, we don't want the total to move, don't want the total reference to move from this place to different column, because the total is only in this column. Okay, so we only want the movement of total in this column. It can be up or it can be down, but it cannot go right or left. So what does it mean? That we don't want the movement of total across the column. So what we need to do, we need to fix the column. So column is G. I'll say function F4. First time when I press, it will lock both the column and the row, but I only want to lock the column. I'll press once again. Now it locks the row. You can see the dollar sign in front of 35. I don't want that. I'll press function F4 once again. Now it has locked the column G. That is what we want. Now when I say and when I paste in all the cells, you see you've got the result. Now if you total it, it's 100% for all the months. And also if you want to check, you can check the relative value of the sales divided by the total sales in that particular month. So this is how you can use all these three kind of referencing. You can use it separately or you can use it together, and it will help you save a lot of time. Let me know if the video was helpful, and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you.